Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video, we'll be talking about the changes to Bard coming in Final Fantasy XIV's next expansion, Stormblood. Now keep in mind everything you see here and everything we discuss based on the information from the live letter number 33 is still completely subject to change until June 16th when early access actually begins. So take everything you hear and see here with a grain of salt, but I can tell you that, well, that salt's looking tasty based on the changes we do know that are coming to Bard. So Bard, along with Machinist, are getting one major change that stands out above all else. They will no longer have cast times. I know we're talking about Bard here, but I think it's worth mentioning that Machinist was officially confirmed to have the same changes. The main reason being that you found that a lot of players just weren't into that whole playstyle in patch 3.0, and while it allowed them to balance the job in a certain way, they feel like they needed to remove that aspect in order to help alleviate the DPS disparity and get people interested in playing the Bard job again. Now, while that's enough information, and that's exciting enough for a lot of Bard players just to end the video on that, we do have to analyze the video footage that is in front of us, because there are a lot of very, very odd things that are not familiar to what Bards are used to right now at all. So first and foremost, we see three songs that we at least know by name in this video. One of them is Mage's Ballad, one of them is Wanderer's Minuet, and one of them is Army's Paean. Now, whenever they use one of these songs, an effect takes place around their target as opposed to just playing a song around the Bard. So it seems that the new songs are actually targeted abilities on the opponent. If they have some sort of debuff tied to them, if they do damage is uncertain, but it's very different from the way it was before, where you pretty much sang a song and it was just an effect that happened around you. There's no sort of animation to imply that that's happening here, other than the giant AoE that's happening around the target itself. So it's possible perhaps that song effects appear outward from the target as opposed to outward from the Bard. I mean, that last little bit is speculation, but it's the best speculation that I could come up with. Why else would we be casting our song on a target? And I can't say cast anymore because it's instant. Why would we be using it on a target if it was outward from ourselves? You know what I mean? Now, another thing that we see about the songs is the way that they are shown to us on the user interface. Now, like I said, we see Ballad, Paean, and Minuet, and each time the Bard actually uses one of those abilities, the bar that you see in the bottom right actually changes. It tells you which song is currently active, and the bar actually has different sort of meters that are filling depending on which song is currently active. Now with Mage's Ballad, there's actually no sort of additional thing to keep track of, so it may be perhaps that Ballad is the simplest of the bunch for whatever reason. But then when you switch to Army's Paean, you notice there's little musical notes at the bottom, and I think by the time he switches to Minuet, there's a total of 3 of them lit up, so you can't even really tell exactly what those little musical notes are doing. But then they switch, and maybe it has something to do with switching. Maybe they couldn't activate Minuet without having at least 3 of them or something. I don't know, or maybe when they switch to Minuet, they gain an effect based on how many of those were actually active. When switching to Minuet, there's almost like an arrow meter that fills at the bottom, and you see it go up one, and then the Bard actually uses it and expends it to use another arrow skill before it recharges again. So how exactly these music notes and these arrows are charging is not 100% certain. We don't know if it's auto attacks, which, by the way, you have to remember that Bards will have their ranged auto attacks back. Well, in theory at least. We'd hope that with the cast times being gone that they'll have their ranged auto attacks back. We don't know if it's auto attacks, we don't know if it's ability usages, we don't know if it has something to do with the dots, we don't know if it has something to do with some other like internal counter that we can't see here, but all we can see is that they are clearly filling up and granting some sort of effect. The only one we could definitively say is it looks like Minuet actually is used on that super arrow skill, the very last skill that is used in the actual job action trailer. And I mean, while the songs are the most shocking thing, I mean, we gotta also just analyze what else is in front of us. The very first ability with the flute, we have no idea what that is. We see 2 new animations that resemble the Wind Bite and Venomous Bite animations, but the animation on the target is completely different. We see 2 pretty quick bloodletters back to back, so we can assume that maybe there was a bloodletter proc there, or bloodletter's cooldown's been reduced. One of the two is probably likely. We saw you still have Imperial Arrow. We saw some sort of giant AoE song. Now I want to talk about that giant AoE song, because on the Machinist job ability preview, there's an ability that looks very similar over there, but it's a different color. So I'm wondering if these are part of the cross-roll or if these are part of the jobs themselves, because they look way too familiar. It's either that both jobs have similar abilities and they both like provide a similar effect, which makes sense considering Bard and Machinist are there, but they did tell us that some of the abilities we see here do indeed belong to the cross-roll system during the live letter 36. So seeing Knowing that we have some unknown skills in the ranged cross roll that we haven't identified yet, and that both Bard and Machinist actually use what look to be similar abilities, but with a different sort of, I guess, color or hue to them, may signify that those are either cross roll abilities or just it's a utility that's shared across both of them, something that is similar to each of the jobs. That we don't know yet either. Overall, I am definitely digging this. I didn't mind the cast times, but the big thing that I'm really impressed with here is how song-focused Bard's DPS gameplay appears to be. I guess the thing is, we don't see Foe's Requiem in here. We don't know what effects those songs are actually having, if any at all. And I don't think we see Battle Voice. We don't know how Battle Voice would even interact with any of these new abilities because, again, we don't know what kind of effects they actually have. So there's a lot of information we don't have, but I'm very happy to see that they're focused on their songs. Their songs are their power. That is something that I feel like Bard should be central to, even if they are a DPS, like they are in Final Fantasy XIV. That is super important to me, and honestly, I'd sworn off Bard all these years because I just didn't want to play it anymore, and this is exciting to me. I mean, depending on what else we find out about Bard, I might be willing to play Bard again, just based on what I'm seeing right here. So I'm super excited. Hopefully you all are super excited as well, and hopefully we'll have some more definitive information in the coming weeks. But anyway, that's going to be a wrap for me. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. And stay tuned. We're going to be covering all the rest of the Job Action trailer individual parts. On top of that, we've got a ton of content coming in the following week. So definitely be sure to subscribe and be on the lookout for all of that. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. And until then, take care.